interesting. Okay, not two more because I want to hear all of these. I love this question. Yeah.
We were kind of like Adrian in a way of kind of like a child with a parent where you don't get the answer that you want from your mom. So you go to your dad and you go, can I go out to play? No, you have to clean your room. And then you go to the next parent and the parent says, oh, sure, go out and play.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So just
very interesting. And then the kid, it's a really good analogy. And then the kid says, like, but Dad said, right? This is the but Dad said question. Yeah.
I agree with what they're saying. I think that he's pitting people against each other. But in the bigger picture, isn't that what we do as Jews? Aren't we supposed to question? We never just accept it? Just because someone says it doesn't mean it is. We still question.
Yeah, is he a positive figure, a negative figure? We're having a lot of motivations for him. Matt?
I think we need...
Oh, wait, hang on.
I don't think he's that important. It's between the two rabbis. That's the story.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, because remember, the student doesn't... we're going to keep going, and the student's going to fade away pretty quick. Last one.
I saw this as symbolic of, being a member of the populace, the student, versus the government.
Yeah.
And being very suspicious of government.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
These are the same rabbis who wrote the saying of, don't stay, you shouldn't be entangled with the government. You should keep your head down. Yeah.
Rabban Gamliel is the big dog here. Why does he have to wait until somebody else comes and makes a decision? Why can't he make the decision himself? Why isn't his word...
Let's see what he does. Let's see what he does. Maybe he might make a decision himself. Who wants to keep reading here?
It sounded to me that wait until your father gets home.
Yep.
All
right, let's keep reading of when the masters of the shield entered. Somebody want to jump in?
When the masters of the shields entered, the questioner, the same student, stood and asked, is the evening prayer optional or obligatory?
All right, let me stop you real quick. So, I'm going to set the scene a little bit. We've all gathered in. Everybody's had their coffee and bagel and schmooze. All the rabbis come in and they're sitting down on the benches here, and they're going to chat. And then the way it works is the rabbi comes in, Rabbi Gamliel comes in, he sits down, he says, like, ask. Start to ask questions. And he calls on this student in particular. He says, ask your question. And then he starts. Okay.
But I have a question.
Sure.
So why does Rabban Gamliel answer it? Because he already answered him. And he was supposed to wait for the masters of the shield.
But now it's in public.
Yeah.
Is there anyone who disagrees?
So the student comes to his rabbi and he says, give me your answer. And he gives him obligatory. And then he says, wait, but Rabbi Yeshua says something different. Rabbi Gamliel says, ask in class tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's about to make a point here.
Okay.
Set it up. It's a setup. Rabbi Gamliel is setting this up.
Yes.
Even like your motive, who was it? Even if the student might have set this up, Rabbi Gamliel is setting up step 2. All right, so let's keep reading from Rabban Gamliel. Who was reading? Sorry, Seth. Yeah, go.
Rabban Gamliel said to him, obligatory. Rabban Gamliel said to everyone, is there anyone who disagrees about this thing? Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, no. Rabban Gamliel said to him, but wasn't it in your name that they told me optional?
All right, so let's set up again. Set up the question. Ask me. Is the evening prayer, the student says, is the evening prayer fixed or obligatory? Rabban Gamliel says obligatory. And then Rabban Gamliel says to everyone, does anyone have a problem with that?
You better not cross me.
Does anyone have a problem with the answer that I just gave? And who answers him? The one person we know has a problem with that. He says, no, boss, we're cool. Everything's fine. And Rabban Gamliel loses it. I mean, you can kind of picture the scene in your head, right, of how infuriating that would be if somebody, does anybody have a problem with that? And the one guy you know that you're the guy you're about to tear apart is the one who's like, no, everything's fine. It would just...
Took the steam right out of his
Yeah, it would... Steam right out of you. I think it'd make you angry.
Yeah,
okay. I have a question about the language.
Yeah, of course.
Because it says, but wasn't it in your name that they told you?
Yeah.
Who's they?
They, I don't know if he wants to... He might be trying to not single out the student. I should go back and double check in the original to make sure it's they. I'm pretty sure it's they. Yeah.
He's diffusing the responsibility.
Oh, could be. I like that. All right, so we got our scene. Let's see what happens in the third part of the section. Somebody want to keep going from Rabban Gamliel said?
Rabban Gamliel said, Yehoshua, stand on your feet and they will testify against you. Rabbi Yehoshua stood on his feet and said, if I were alive and he dead, the living could contradict the dead. But now that I am alive and he alive, how can the living contradict the living? Rabbi Gamliel continued to sit and lecture, and Rabbi Yehoshua stood on his feet until the whole nation was murmuring. And they said to Chutzpah, the Targuman, stop. And he stopped.
All right, so a little bit more setting the scene here. There's a question asked of what's the Targuman? So let me explain a little bit of how teaching works then. The teacher sits down, and out of respect, the student who's going to stand up. And I'm going to call on you, and I'm going to say, go ahead, ask your question. And you remain standing while I remain seated as a sign of respect. There's no way I could do this. I bounce around all the time. Anyway, so he says, yeah, go ahead. Oh, and also the senior rabbi just kind of, he talks, and there's a guy called a Targuman, a translator. I've seen the Dalai Lama speak before, where this has happened. The Dalai Lama speaks in his normal voice, and then there's a guy next to him who's like writing down the gist of what he said, and then we'll announce it in translation. And so Targuman means translator, but it could also just be, this role is a combination of human microphone, a combination of it's summaries. A lot. If the more senior students are gathered around here, and then giving a summary to the people at the back, right? Of, okay, this is what's going on up here. So imagine if we were having our own little serious conversation, maybe even in a different language than what everyone spoke back there. So that's the role of the Targuman, and this is why I want you to see that it's extremely disrespectful. He says, Rabbi Yeshua, stand up. He's making a second in command, stand up while he finishes his lesson. So if it's, when Rick said something that just pissed me off, I said, Rick, go in the corner over there. And you got, no, don't do it, please stay. And Rick would wait in the corner, and I continue to teach. You would be like, that's so disrespectful, that why would he just ignore him and put him in the back and make him stand up the entire class? This is the rabbinic equivalent of the dunce cap. So let's take a couple questions, and we're going to keep going. Yeah.
I have two.
Okay.
The first one is, does chutzpah have anything to do with the derivation of the word chutzpah?
I'm later.
I'm
checking it now.
I couldn't affirmatively say, but I'm not sure. Chutzpah, I think, is originally Yiddish, yeah?
Yes.
All right, so this is probably a couple languages removed. I can look into it, but I don't think so.
Okay, my second question is, they were supposed to enter where the masters of the shields were.
Uh-huh.
How did they go from the masters of the shields to, quote-unquote, the whole nation?
Huh. Very interesting. So, I think Rabban Gamliel thinks the rabbis are around. He refers to them as the warriors, right? And then when I pointed out that there are people hanging out in the back, I think that the phrase the whole nation is it's hyperbolic. It's big. Maybe this wasn't a thing that lasted one day. Maybe this was something that everybody went home and said, "You hear about how disrespectful that rabbi was?" And eventually that gets around through the community, and the whole nation is murmuring, is whispering to each other, "Can you believe this guy? We've got to do something about this guy. He's terrible." Yeah.
So he said, Yehoshua, stand in your feet, and they will testify against you. I interpreted they as to mean your feet.
Your feet? Barry, keep going with that. I never thought about that.
Yeah, you have to remain standing.
Yeah. Huh.
Until you get the picture.
Yeah.
See, understand.
Maybe this is a little bit more disciplinary than maybe it's even harsher. Oh, it's definitely a punishment, but maybe it's even harsher than I originally thought. Interesting. I like it. And yeah, it's a plural noun in Hebrew as well. So.
But I kind of take Rabbi Yehoshua's statement as being one of those things of when you're in public, you don't.
Which statement? The one that's kind of weird?
The one if I were
yeah. Okay, yeah, let's talk about this for a couple minutes.
We were in private the other day, but when we're in public and he is the leader, I'm not going to shame him or go against him because he is the head rabbi in public. In private, I can give my opinion, but in public, I'm not going to embarrass my leader. So I think, I'm glad you said not to judge Rabbi Gamliel too strongly because he seems to be really too harsh to me.
Yeah, always keep his. I can never look at his character the same way again after reading more about his biography and where he came from. So we had a thought over here. Sorry, and then.
I'm wondering if Rabbi Gamliel set the student up to make the question, so he could make an issue of Rabbi Yeshua.
Yeah. This is a setup.
And it's a setup for
we are making a statement.
The rest of the community or world to say you don't question certain things.
Oh, now that's interesting. I'm thinking about, that's another question I should ask. What is the student, if we take the premise that the student might have been purposely setting this up, right? what's the student's agenda for doing this, but what's Rabban Gamliel's agenda for going with it? And so right after this section, I put ellipses here. The next section is about that there are 2 more incidents of Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yehoshua, and Rabbi Yehoshua not giving Rabban Gamliel enough respect in his mind. I cut those out for time, but we can talk about it. We can talk about it some other time. One's a really good story from about Rosh Hashanah that I was thinking about doing. Okay, we had a few more on this in this weird statement. If I were alive and he dead, who's he? Well, okay, we got a couple answers already. So yeah, hands and thoughts on who he is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that first statement to be very Freudian is wish fulfillment.
Wish ill on him? All right.
The question, now that I am alive, and he alive, how can the living contradict the living? Well, of course, it has to be the living who contradicts the living.
Yeah.
It cannot contradict anybody.
Yeah.
So that's part of what they're doing, and I think I don't know the language, of course, but nation. It seems to me if Rabban Gamliel is leading his people, and these rabbis will then go out and talk to their people, then he's projecting, extrapolating that this is the nation that's listening to it. That's what I think he means by nation. It goes forth.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
But he also says, he also says, now that I am alive. Well, he's been alive for a long time. How come it doesn't say, since I am alive and he alive?
I'll have to go back and check why I translated it that way, but I'm pretty sure that's pretty good.
Maybe not because he has courage to stand up and say something.
It's all subjunctive. If I were alive and he dead, the living could contradict the dead. But no, they couldn't.
Yeah. We had one in the back. Oh, wait, sorry, we had one in the back.
I think he's doing exactly.
Wait, hang on one second.
I think he's doing exactly what you said. When they want to say something, but they don't really want to say it, so they say something totally different.
There we go.
So if he says, if I were alive and he were dead, that's not really what he means. And when he says the living can contradict the dead, but now that I'm alive and he alive, how can the living contradict the living? It's code.
Yeah.
I think
it's code. I definitely agree that it's code. Let's try to...
Disrespectful respect.
I like that. Disrespectful respect. So,
I think you could change the period to a comma.
Where at?
Contradict the dead, comma, but now that I am alive. Instead of a period. I think it's maybe not 2 separate thoughts. I think maybe it's one thought.
It's definitely a possibility. There's no punctuation. If the rabbis had invented punctuation, we'd be a lot farther along, because we spend most of our time arguing about punctuation.
They want us to argue.
They want us to, yeah, you're right.
Review who saved who.
Who saved who?
From the after
who saved the father?
Temple.
Oh, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai saved Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel is not the one talking here. He is the one who... Rabban Gamliel is the teacher. This is Yeshua's statement.
Okay.
Okay, one more.
I think that it's really interesting that he said that statement. Now I think about how we do as Jews contradict the dead. We consider when we study Talmud, and also when certain rabbis die, like Chabad, like Hasidic rabbis, we consider them still to be in charge, or the group does. So when we talk about Talmud, we say Rabbi Gamliel says, or we're discussing it. So it's got to be in code, because we do contradict the dead and talk about the dead as if they're right here.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, I lied. Not one more. This is the last one.
The first part of it is just a sarcastic statement.
Yeah.
He's not dead.
Yeah. So I want to add one more thing in the mix. That what if the he's talking about is the student? That he's not talking about. He's not addressing everybody. He's addressing Rabban Gamliel. I had never thought about the way that you guys took it, which was if Rabbi Yehoshua was talking to everyone else. But if I was alive and the student was dead, then I could say that, no, there's no way I said that statement. But I'm alive, he's alive. No, I never thought about it the way that kind of everyone latched onto it. But Man, I don't even know if I want to keep talking about this because I want to go back and think about it more.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
But I'm here and I have students here. I can't, this is the George Washington, I cannot tell a lie, right? He's right here. My witness is right here. And, I taught this class once to as a 3-class section. We looked at each of the Roman numerals I did as a separate class. We spent a long, long time talking about this, and then my rabbi who was there said, man, you could just pull out that statement and we could just talk about that all day. I said, oh no. But anyway.
So did the people just get fed up with this whole
concept? The people are mad.
And they said, just...
And they yelled at the person in the middle of the lecture, and they said, stop, we can't hear this anymore. We can't deal with how disrespectful this is. And he stopped.
Oh, it was about the disrespect?
Yeah, it's very disrespectful. Of making...
The whole nation was murmuring.
Yeah. So I got one more question about kind of what can we take out of this story before we move on. We hear the rest of it. What do we learn from? What do the rabbis think, and what do we think about this? And what makes a good student, and what makes a good teacher, and what makes a good colleague? Does anybody in Echoverte have any thoughts on any of these things we can kind of glean out of the story here, this section of the story?
Just initially, I think a good student should ask questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And if he doesn't get an answer that he can resonate with, or if he gets contradicting answers, he wants to put it together somehow. And these guys couldn't put it together for him.
The students never mentioned again until the very, very end of the story that I haven't brought you yet.
Okay.
What was the practice at that time? Was the prayer optional, or was it obligatory?
Oh, good. You're going back to the original question. I'm going to address that very last. Right after this. Let's get back to that, because I think it also has something really important. The answer is, Rabbi Yehoshua is the one who becomes accepted as correct, eventually. That's, we'll talk about that in a second.
So, to me, a good student ask questions, and they ask the right questions that bring up the dissent, or the optional different opinions.
Yeah.
That's a good student. A good teacher is the one who doesn't think he knows everything, but tries to help the student figure it out for themselves. And what was the third one?
Colleagues. What do we learn about Rabbi Yeshua and Rabban Gamliel as colleagues?
They're not best of friends.
Right.
They're not so well.
And they disagree over who really knows, I guess.
There's no opening for discussion between the two. It's black or white, and there's no...
Yeah, you can almost imagine it like, you know where we get the terms like left or right in politics from the French Assembly of the ones who are more revolutionaries on the left and more conservatives out on the right? Yeah. You can almost imagine... the Beit Midrash kind of breaking down this way, right? Of like, okay, these are the Rabban Gamliel's people over here, these are Rabbi Yeshua's people. But that's going to come up later, that everybody's got people, and their posse is going to benefit in this whole discussion.
We haven't talked about Rabbi Gamliel's cryptic statement. Which one was...
Oh, no, that was a typo. I meant Rabbi Yeshua, that if I were alive and he dead.
Oh, that's very cryptic.
That was my typo. So I'm going to getting back to my question of what do we do with the original question? On one hand, the question doesn't really matter. On the other hand, it really does. So first, it could have been any question. The student, if it was a setup, could have set up anything that he knew Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua disagreed on. But he picked this one, and this is my little thought on why this question. Because eventually the halacha, the established ruling that comes down, not even during this time period, but as it's kind of gone along, is that Rabbi Yeshua is right, is that the evening prayer, of the 3 prayers that we have a day, of morning, afternoon, and evening, morning and afternoon are obligatory. Everyone has to do them. And evening is optional. There's a later commentary that says, actually, it is optional. The ruling is it's optional. But the Jewish people have accepted it upon themselves as obligatory. The idea that we're having this discussion, one, totally doesn't matter for us today, right? Because everyone acts as if it is obligatory. It's an optional thing that we act as if it's obligatory. But I really love this model. I think they're really trying to tell us something here of the idea that we should be looking at where's the place of the Jewish people in this story. The idea that the Jewish people have accepted something upon themselves as not the rabbis. The rabbis didn't assign this. That God didn't even assign this prayer. The Jewish people accepted it upon themselves. So keep that in mind, the place of the Jewish people as we're going through the story. Of where are we at? When it says the whole nation's murmuring, what else are we murmuring about? So I think part of it is they're murmuring about what the ruling is here. All right.
Part of it,
So, yeah, we'll take two more on this and we'll go to the next section. But, yeah.
are we murmuring about the conflict?
I think we're murmuring about a lot of things, but yeah, the conflict is a good one. Yeah.
I wonder if Gamaliel and Josh kind of staged this to get people talking.
Interesting.
Just a thought.
Could be. They do reckon I don't want to give spoilers away yet. We'll take two more.
Well, I think this Gamaliel guy is obviously insecure in his power.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And that's part of what's going on here.
So maybe
it also helps to throw in.
Don't question me because I'm the whoever.
Can I also throw in that Rabbi Yeshua is older than Rabban Gamliel?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, should have added that as a biography.
So that's why it has to be respectful.
It's very disrespectful because it's we don't know how old he is, but it's how much more disrespectful is it that it's like an elderly person that you're making stand at the back of the room.
I get the feeling that they always do this. And then the people are saying, "Oh, they never agree. We'll just
yeah,
decide."
That's right.
That's the section that I removed for time is two more stories of when Rabban Gamliel felt disrespected by Rabbi Yeshua.
I was thinking that all the murmuring with people, it's like, okay, what do you think about what he said? What do you think about that? What should we do? Let's forget them. We'll just decide what we want to do.
Beautiful.
But I want to go back to what Carol said, where she related it to politics. Because at one time, both parties got together, and if they disagreed with each other, they really didn't disagree in public. They disagreed behind the scenes in a smoker. Whereas today, they scream and yell at one another in front of everybody, and the goal is to make someone look like an idiot.
Yeah, this is not a healthy classroom dynamic. All right, we're still on it, so yeah.
I think this is a traditional story. If you have two Jews on an island, you have three synagogues.
Feels like it.
Yeah. I was just going to say, in line with your comment about the political thing, yeah, and what do the rest of us think of the politicians that do that? We think, take your bickering and do it somewhere else because we're tired of it. And it makes everybody apathetic about what they're really supposed to be paying attention.
And I think you're getting to something here because the rest of the story is a behind closed doors discussion. You're going to see the discussion in people's homes and among the leadership.
I don't think Jews ever get tired of bickering.
This is our strongest area. Last word.
Who wrote this all down? What was the purpose?
All right, come to next Sunday chat. The composition of the Talmud. That's a Sunday chat into itself. So, yeah, I'll move that. I'll move along. But yeah, this is a latter stage rabbinic document that was assembled over several centuries. This one is compiled and finished by the 6th century CE. So, 530 years after the destruction of the temple. Alrighty, so next section of our story. Sorry it feels like I'm pushing. I love all these sections equally. They're like my children. Alright, so can we go back into Hebruta? Did everybody like doing that, or should we do it all together? Hebruta? Alright, let's take another 7 minutes or so, and we'll do them for reading section 2. Sorry, one more thing. The questions at the very end that I want you to look at. Actually, read up until it says questions there. What do the rabbis think makes a good leader, and is this surprising? And would you come up with different qualities? So read up until it says questions.
established Rabbi Eliezer.
I see it here.
Why? That is
There's a lot of people,
Oh, that's the actor, not the doctor.
You gotta know the right, gotta know the right people.
So it's really not boys, but also you have 10 generations of characters. You don't have credibility. Right.
Let's take 2 more minutes. Let's do 2 minute warning that could extend into several minutes. 2 minutes. I need
It's like you're looking at the younger person. I don't know.
It's against everyone's
So you kind of during the whole every part of it.
Alrighty, so let's come back together and see what we got. If you're wondering why I'm rushing through this, since I have a secret hidden part 4 of the story that I haven't passed out yet. So that's why it looks like we got a... Huh? Because the surprise is my punchline. Alright. So, let's read through this. Let's start reading here.
Okay. Who will we establish as head of the Beit Midrash to replace Rabban Gamliel?
All right, so one, that was quick. We already decided that, yeah, we're getting rid of this guy. All right. Not years. Probably not even days. All right, keep going.
Should we establish Rabbi Yehoshua? No, he was involved in the story. Should we establish Rabbi Akiva? No. Perhaps harm would come to him as he does not have a good pedigree.
All right, let's talk about these 2 statements real quick. What's going on here is they're trying to figure out, all right, we've all decided we've got to get rid of the rabbi. Who are we going to get to replace him? And they're going through rabbis that are senior enough. They're trying to figure out the qualities that would make a good leader, especially after this really tough, there's going to be a hard transition, right? There's a transition caused by conflict. So, they say, what about Rabbi Yeshua?
The big gun.
Sorry?
They're going after the big gun.
Yeah, they're going after, they've already decided. There's no question about should we get rid of him, should we not. I didn't ellipses any of this. There's no conversation about whether or not we should get rid of him. It is this weird they, whether it's the nation, whether it's the leadership, decide to get rid of him. They said, what about Rabbi Yeshua? He said, it looks bad. He was part of the incident. We can't throw him out for Rabbi Yeshua. It'll look like we pick sides in the story. We're done. No. Rabbi Akiva, as people mentioned, whoa, where did he come in? Another senior rabbi, also a famous name. has potential to be a leader, but why didn't they pick him? Remember what pedigree means, all right? So, you know,